Hey, hey, hey! Time for another out of this world story from rSpace. I'm feeling a lot of anger about this child, 5-year-old boy, of my 39 male, wife's 39 female, affair that I've been talked into being a father figure for. This post is about me, 39 male, my ex-wife, 39 female, our 2 sons, 7 and 9 boys, and the affair my ex-wife had that resulted in the end of our marriage, as well as a 3rd child we'll call Max, male, 5. I've been thinking about posting something like this for a few days. I have to admit that reading the recent post by Throwaway No College 01 is the thing that's pushed me to sit down and try to type this out. I think that what I want to talk about is parenting stuff, but I'm going to start by talking about the affair and dissolution of our relationship. My wife confessed to the affair about a week after telling me she was pregnant. So, a week I'd spent excited about what I thought was going to be my child. Turns out, no. It was an emotionally pretty traumatic time. I might have been able to work through the infidelity, but made the ultimatum that she had to end the pregnancy. She was philosophically opposed to the abortion, and I knew this. She stuck to her morals in that particular instance, so I initiated a divorce. She has married her affair partner. Regarding custody of our sons, there was a period of more conflict and resistance. I took the boys in the initial period of Max's infancy, and in the initial highly emotional, injured state I was in, I sought full permanent custody. But I wasn't likely to be successful, and I was eventually persuaded that despite the breakdown of my relationship with her, that it's in my son's best interest to have their mother in their lives. Today, to the amazement of everyone else in my life, my ex and I remain co-parenting partners in the parenthood of our children. For the last 2 years, we've shared week-to-week custody of our 2 sons. This upcoming school year, Max is going to be old enough to attend the same school. About a month ago, I got sat down by my ex, her partner, and all 3 boys, and they all want Max to travel back and forth with the boys each week and effectively live with me 50% of the time. Seriously. There are some arguments for it, admittedly. The 3 boys are friends and brothers, as much as I resent it. Splitting them up regularly does seem like a weird sibling dynamic that could have poor consequences. I'm angry with my ex for broaching the topic with the boys before me, but it's also an entirely reasonable thing for the boys to have an opinion on. I agreed. What was I supposed to say? No? Why not? I can't say, because I hate that Max exists. So I said okay. I do hate him. I know he doesn't deserve to be hated. I know he's no more responsible for the circumstances of this conception than any of us. But knowing that doesn't seem to matter. He's a walking, talking reminder of all the worst emotions that I've ever felt. I'm coming to the end of his 2nd week staying with us and the boys. We have moved him into my home and made space for him. I hate the sound of his voice. If he needs help in the kitchen, I am immediately annoyed with no good reason. I'm constantly angered by his limitations that are entirely in line with being a 5-year-old, things I would never get angry with my sons over. I'm short-tempered and just energized with this useless, visceral anger. I feel like the last years of my life have been a carousel of humiliations and degradations. The only way I've been able to keep everything together is constantly repeating to myself the pragmatic argument that no matter how authentic my grievances are and no matter how justified I am in my anger, it doesn't help me or my sons to devolve into an embittered rage hermit. Just hold my tongue, breathe deep, and force myself to do the thing that will actually help. So I remain in regular contact with their mother, and I talk to her politely on the topics that I have to. Since recognizing that I don't have the legal power to exclude him from my sons' lives, I have been cordial with Max's father. That I've been able to do these things has been the only thing about myself worth feeling good about. But maybe it's not worth feeling good about. Maybe I regret being civil. Because in Max's presence, that pragmatic argument is just not enough. It's like all the anger I've set aside through sheer force of will returns at once and possesses me while I have to talk to him. I thought I was doing the right thing, but if I had remained combative and negative, I never would have ended up in this position. What do? I'm constantly thinking I want to back out, to say, no, I can't do this, I'm sorry. But how could I justify that? No one else in this situation will be happy with that. The boys certainly don't understand why there would be a reason for them to be treated differently based on their parentage. My oldest son has told me so explicitly, in a moment that made me feel both proud of him and ashamed of my own anger. Their mother and her partner would be upset. Part of me doesn't care, and bitterly assumes they're just trying to get some free time for themselves out of this. But I'm trying not to dwell on that. My ex makes good arguments that this is in the best interest of all the children. But part of me just remembers how long she lied to me and how totally I trusted her in that time. It seems like the only thing to do is the same thing I've ever done. Suck it up and get over myself and my anger. But if I do that, then I have to actually do that. Even if I'm being a responsible babysitter for Max right now, He deserves to live in a home where he is loved, not merely tolerated. Can I do that? Maybe I can't do that. I'm scared of a path forward where I can't work up the nerve to back out of this arrangement and consign myself to getting over it. And then I actually don't get over it, but rather dwell even angrier with how my life has turned out and take it out on the undeserving around me. And here's the update. So, my post got a lot of feedback, and it was pretty much unanimous. I heard from lots of people, parents and sons and daughters and blended families, people who'd been cheated on themselves, people who were Max in their own families, and you all told me what I should have been able to admit to myself, that this was not normal, and that no one had ever heard of an arrangement like this. I resolved to end the arrangement and met with my ex-wife and her partner to tell them a few days after I posted, midway through their custody week. Many people advised me to speak to my boys about it first, like my ex did to me, but I wanted to deliver the message before having to take Max again. I was thinking it might be better to instead call them out on that behavior and try to get them to agree not to include the boys in that level of discussion before me, and then we could all sit down with the boys. The meeting did not go well. They were both pretty mad at me. I had tried to prepare for it to be uncomfortable. I told myself just to be polite and firm that I didn't owe them an explanation beyond, "I'm sorry, it's just not working out." I guess he made some career move based on this schedule that I was effing up. In hindsight, I do feel sort of responsible for that frustration, in that I regret agreeing to this arrangement in the first place. But in the moment, I really was not giving a F about this man's work-life balance. Then, he said something about how I wasn't being fair, that they just wanted a fair custody arrangement. That made me very mad. Thinking about this all to type it out has my heart hammering. I have some different opinions on fairness. I said some pretty crappy, regrettable things to both of them, and then we were all screaming at each other for a while, and then I stormed out, and I didn't talk to the boys. I didn't get to talk to my boys for several days until handoff. They immediately were asking about why Max wasn't with them, and I, prepared for it, held a more serious talk with them than I had up to this point. I talked about how it's great that they enjoy spending time with Max, but that I'm their father and that Max has his own father to spend time with. I also talked about how this whole spectacle of our lives is difficult for me, that I don't like having to spend only every other week with them, that their mother's decision to start another family with Max's father and Max still makes me mad. This is pretty awfully difficult stuff to talk about. I've been pretty strict with myself about not venting to my sons about their mother up until now, but effectively, that's meant I haven't really talked to her about our breakup at all. If you can't say anything nice, as they say. Trying to maintain that respect for their mother and also talk frankly about my own feelings is a difficult tightrope balance. I don't want to blame their mother, but I also don't want to not blame their mother, if you know what I mean. This would be one of the situations I identify as unfair, where the responsible thing is to never say anything disparaging or poisonous to my sons about their mother, my ex. But that means I have to describe the current state of affairs and what has happened to get here in a way that isn't disparaging to their mother and act like this is normal. She decided. I think I actually did a good job navigating the conversation. My sons absorbed it easier than I expected. A few weeks later, and things with them are basically normal. I have had a few short conversations with my ex since our big embarrassing blow-up. I sort of feel like I want her to apologize for this whole thing, but also know that I'm not doing myself any favors waiting for that to happen. I think she remains upset with me, more for the things I said than the rejection of this arrangement with Max. Or maybe that's just projection because that's what I feel guilty for. I also regret the last time I spoke to Max was dropping him off before ending this arrangement. I don't know. I guess his mom has explained to him that she missed him too much to have him gone each week, but I don't know how sturdy that story will be. Rereading my last post has me feeling pretty shameful of how I talked about Max. I know he doesn't deserve my sustained ire and that he's not going anywhere, so I'll have to be able to adjust to his presence. I'm obviously holding on to a lot of anger that is really about my ex-wife, but she isn't obligated to give a crap about that, and I'm obligated to interact with her politely, so I guess that anger just got set aside and then vented onto Max just because he was there in my face, but that was my own fault. So, I sort of expect things will pretty much return to normal from here. Contact with my ex is curt right now, but that'll loosen up. Thanks to almost everyone who commented or reached out to me. Time for some comments. First up, from Sour Ucky and I think you did the right thing. Max doesn't deserve to be treated as nothing more than a tolerable human, and you're also not responsible for taking care of a child that has no legitimate relation to you. I highly suggest therapy for you. Infidelity is a very traumatic thing, and I think you owe it to yourself to seek an expert to guide through such a difficult situation. Best of luck. One Naka's thoughts? I think so as well. You had the presence of mind to recognize the emotional damage you could inflict on that child. Your heart is in the right place. But you're wounded. You're healing. The people that wounded you, rather than helping you heal, are being selfish and expanding your burden. I think your sons will be fine. I also don't think you have anything to be ashamed of. She was wrong, she did the wrong thing, and now must live with the repercussions.